A quick word to let you know that if you pledge $10 or more to the Creative Control Patreon page throughout April 2017, you will receive one Creative Control t-shirt while supplies last. I have the maroon one with my head on it, and the sort of yellow one with the pizza lettering, and in unisex, small, medium, large, and extra large sizes. So if you'd like to support the show and receive a small, medium, large, or extra large token of my appreciation, visit patreon.com/Creative Control to view the shirts and pledge $10 or more today. Thanks! Elliott BROOD is a well-established Canadian band whose unique form of enigmatic folk rock has been captivating audiences for 15 years. Consisting of childhood friends Casey Laforêt and Mark Sasso, and early Elliott BROOD adopter Steve Pitkin, the trio of multi-instrumentalists in this band have won awards and toured the world hard, releasing 5 acclaimed albums along the way, including their most recent LP, 2014's Work and Love. I recently traveled to their new HQ in Hamilton, Ontario to check out their workspace, talk about Granddad's Donuts, the time Mark and Casey saw Nirvana in Detroit, what they make of Hamilton. They used to live in Toronto, basically, and then they moved to Hamilton, so it's been a bit of a transition, but they seem to like it. You'll learn more why if you keep listening. Also talked about their work contributing songs to the new Anna Paquin TV show Bellevue, what their new album might be like, and more. All that, plus you can hear a yet-to-be-released song called The Fall, which is due to be on their next record. I'm going to play you The Fall at the end of this conversation. Sponsored by Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee. This is Elliott BROOD with me on Creative Control. I think to begin, just so everyone can get familiar with each of our voices, well, yours in particular, I'm going to ask each of you to speak briefly and introduce yourselves one at a time. And if you feel like objecting or interjecting upon what any of your colleagues say, feel free. Okay? Don't feel like you have to sit back. So let's start over here. Who are you?
To your left, I'm Casey Lafferty.
Wrong. Sorry.
I'm giving you the truth.
I knew this
right
was going to happen.
Yeah, we're a rowdy bunch. You know, guitar player, bass player in Elliott BROOD.
Hi, Casey. How are you?
Hi, Vish. I miss you. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it has been a while.
It's been a while.
It has been a while since I've seen you. It's nice to have you on the show. And you, sir?
I'm Mark, and I play guitar and banjo, and I'm sitting right directly across from
It's
Vish.
nice to see you in front of me, Mark.
I'm enjoying watching you eat your Granddad's
Donut from Hamilton, Ontario, the greatest donut place in the world, I think.
It's phenomenal.
Because they make donuts the way they used to be, you know, like the big, tasty donuts. That's what I like. So thank you for buying Granddad's Donuts.
You're welcome. I saw you post it the other day, and I was like, I'm going to get those.
We ate, my family and I consumed a dozen donuts within 24 hours, so I feel fat.
And you have 2 little kids.
Yes,
so
that's why.
You consumed.
My daughter walked by today and was pawing at the empty donut box.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Chucky, where's Chucky donut? She wanted her chocolate donut.
Sounds like my kid, too.
Yeah. And you, sir?
My name's Steve Pitkin, and I play drums and keyboards.
Nice to have you on the... And you're engineering our session today.
BROOD, and I'm engineering the session, yeah.
You have some engineering background? You're a recording engineer?
I do. I started as sound guy, and then I went into, studio stuff. And
isn't this how you kind of met each other? You were doing sound for Elliott BROOD at the Cameron House?
That's correct. And then we're like, we should record something. And he's like, hey, have you guys thought about recording? And we were just the duo at that time. And we're like, yeah, we want to record actually in my front room. Can we do that? And Steve showed up.
I said I could do that.
He's like, I can do that.
It's my specialty. Actually, we did, so we did the Tin Type. That became the Tin Type EP, which was mostly done on 6 tracks, sometimes 8.
In your house?
No, in Mark's.
In Mark's house.
My apartment on Bloor Street.
Busy Bloor Street.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. You know, you go out into the world as a band, you encounter a good sound person. Next thing you know, they're in your band. It's
That's
like
how it
a
worked
fairy
out.
tale.
Well, that wasn't that easy though. Steve was
Yeah,
our
wasn't
first
good
show
yet.
together wasn't an incredible show.
It almost ended.
Yeah, it was almost the beginning of the end.
What do you mean? What? I don't understand.
We weren't good, and Steve's a professional.
Oh,
We
you
just
weren't
didn't-
good.
We weren't
Steve
not
walked
good.
off
There
stage.
was some anger there.
He had
Some
to. It
anger
was a
issues.
horrible. But we also we enjoyed drinking a lot in the early. It was fun. It's still fun, and we still drink sometimes, but not like it was then. Not at a cafe.
You
Man.
walked out on them on stage?
It was the first time, but it wasn't the last time. But I haven't done it in a long time.
You
Windsor.
joined
I've walked
the band.
off stage.
You walked off
Yeah.
stage because they were so.
No, I didn't. It just got bad.
We have
it
this-
just got so bad. I was
totally
like, I
did
can't
get
present this.
In all
anymore.
fairness, we
We're
have this
done.
song called Twill,
Yeah.
which
yeah.
is like 7 minutes long. It's 2 chords back and forth, and it's rolling, and it just rolled to a stop when Steve walked off stage, and we just kept playing, and we're like,
I think I might have actually had a violin bow that night or something stupid too.
Yeah,
It was we used
You
to
were
play at
fooling
cafe.
around?
Well, we had a lot at that time. It was just our buddies watching us, anyways.
We
for
were
the most part. so we
experimenting.
were having a lot of fun. This place called Cafe May, which is now the local on Ronces. We used to play there. I mean, for a while, once a month at least. I don't know, even
Quite
more.
often, yeah.
Like way too often, and it was just like sort of a a house party essentially. And yeah, I do remember having a violin bow with a guitar one night, and whatever else every other night. It was but it was so we weren't exactly like groomed at that point.
This
the
was
violin
after
bow.
you did a marathon viewing of The Song Remains the Same, and
Yeah,
you were
there
just
you go.
like, "I'm Jimmy Page now."
You can do this with an acoustic guitar and the worst distortion pedal you can find, and then no one left except for Steve.
Steve, the only guy who hated it, was in the band.
I don't even know if it was the same night. Like I said, that was a time. That was
Okay.
I'm still here, so
20
that's a
3.
test of something.
No, it's true. Well,
he came back. He loves it.
Now we are in. Where are we exactly? We're in Hamilton.
It's almost like the heart of Hamilton, actually.
Beasley
heart.
Village is what they call this
Beasley
area.
Village.
Beasley Village.
Okay.
Yeah. I think a lot of people who aren't from the area of Hamilton have this in mind. Maybe like we're close to the steel. We're down in that area. This is like not. There's a lot of secret parts of Hamilton that people don't know about, like the natural side of things and the escarpment and all that. But Beasley Village is pretty hardcore. There's some characters. It's like Parkdale on Hamilton, I guess. I don't know. What would you call it?
It is. It's
Yeah.
it's the Parkdale of Hamilton
Yeah.
where we're at, but it reminds us.
Gentrified.
Not yet, but it's getting there. It's starting to get.
A lot of
Kind of-
Tiger Cats hats.
Right. A little rough around the edges.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
It's
awesome.
great. You know
But-
what? It's honest.
Yeah. It's got character.
It does. Yeah.
It definitely feels like one of those neighborhoods they're going to start ripping down some of the old stuff and put up some new. There's new things coming up, like condos or apartments, anyways.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah.
And there's there's this amazing little coffee shop that opened just around the corner. It's this little Dutch place, the Orange, Cafe Orange.
Yeah.
So there is, it's starting slowly, and it's a cool little area. It's secure. There's a police station not far away. So
we call it the office.
It's good.
And
there
like
is.
that there's a police
well,
station
I mean, it's
nearby.
if you
I've not had a guest on in the last couple of years who's been like, it's great. The police are right,
Always
right on
around.
hand.
Well,
Yeah.
here's the whole thing. It's like in honor of we have Colt 45 in the fridge, just one that nobody's ever opened, and we put on a huge steel cage outside to obviously protect our equipment in honor of.
Well, in honor of Compton. It's in honor of my youth and my rapping days. You have to have the.
Are you from
the
Compton? You're from
South Compton.
You're from-
my early musical influences?
None of this makes any sense. You're trying to build yourself up a history that you're from Compton, a place where people say "F the police,"
It's
and
more
yet
like this.
earlier you're like, "The police are right nearby." It's great. I'm very confused
Well,
by you.
remember we had
Have you been gentrified? Is that what happened?
I was a little white kid raised in Windsor, but I grew up in a rap crew. You would not believe this, called the KPE.
I do
So
know
my
this.
Did I may
I
have told
remember
you this
this.
before? I like
Yeah.
to talk about it. And the one black kid in our school was my best friend, and we had a little. And so I grew up in that culture. Metal screen doors was what I thought I'd have on my house one day. Malt liquor.
Right.
Colt 45 is. We used to drink St. Ides, which I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No, I don't know.
It's the 8-ball.
It's the 8
Easy
ball.
8-ball
Okay.
rolling, right? So that's what I knew. So I think the idea is we're going to drink that malt liquor when the record is done. We're going to sit on our stoop with our metal front door and live the fantasy that I had as a child.
You're from. You say you're from Windsor, Ontario, which is, for people who don't know, right next to Detroit.
It's right there, yeah.
So you
Absolutely.
kind of have this. Is there a duality there? You're from there too,
Yeah,
right?
just- yeah.
I
Mark?
am. Yeah.
Mark
I mean,
and-
I grew up
yeah.
listening more to Motown.
Yeah, but I definitely grew up in with hip hop and that kind of music, and I still do.
But was there an American-Canadian duality for you living in Windsor?
Of course.
Yeah,
You're more
absolutely.
American than Canadian
Yeah,
there.
I didn't
Really?
even listen to the CBC until I moved out of Windsor.
Correct.
We were all inundated with American radio and television,
Which was great. I mean, Detroit radio, you can't.
It's great and all,
It was
but I just
actually
didn't know
good.
there was this whole other culture. I watched Channel 4 News, Fox News, all that stuff. And the radio was all Detroit radio. Until you get a little bit out of there where you have another,
But when you say Fox News, it was Fox News back in the 80s.
Yeah,
which
it was
is
just
not
Fox.
what it
It
is
was
now.
like a news channel on a Fox affiliate.
Exactly.
Yes.
It wasn't like hardcore Fox.
And the
News.
funny thing about Detroit News, which you'll see if you travel anywhere, you go to Winnipeg, Quebec City, Detroit News makes it to all these places. That's why Detroit is so scary to everyone.
Made it to
goes
me too.
so far.
Actually, to be honest, for me, growing up where I did in Cambridge, Ontario, it was mostly Buffalo News.
Yeah, which is
So Tonawanda, Cheektowaga, all those names.
It's the exact same.
Yeah.
It's just Detroit and Buffalo are very similar in that.
Yes.
And they scare Canadians.
They scare
those
them.
two cities scare Canadians.
Did you have fearful upbringings in Windsor?
No, not in Windsor, but I mean, when you went to Detroit,
Oh.
you were always told to kind of like just be aware.
Yeah.
But Detroit is amazing. The architecture, the DIA, the Detroit Institute of Arts. There's amazing, beautiful things in Detroit.
I think so too.
But the fear scares people.
It is.
So much.
It is when you cross. For me, anyway. I don't know about you guys. So you would have a different experience.
Yeah, it
When
was sort of second nature to us. You always go
Yeah.
over there. But I remember my parents saying, like, don't point at anyone out the window of the car and stuff. They were nervous
That's just
people.
basic manners, though. That has nothing to do with criminality. That's just like, don't be rude, you
That's true.
schmuck.
But we got, think of how many shows we each got. You just crossed the border to see every. The only band I can think of that I ever missed that I loved was Blind Melon, and that because every band came there, and it was a tunnel bus ride across the river.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was the same. I know in Windsor, like a lot of bands skip our hometown because you go play Detroit. So
Sure.
it's you go right there, or at least bigger bands and stuff. So I got to see basically every band I ever loved.
Where would you go? Where did you go see him?
St. Andrews was one of them.
And
Shelter,
Shelter, which
State
is
Theater, yeah.
State Theater was amazing.
State Theater, which
State-
is now
yeah.
it's got another.
It's got a name.
I saw
Film
Radiohead
At the
at
State.
State Theater.
Wasn't that a gorgeous theater?
Gorgeous?
It's unbelievable.
Amazing.
The first show I saw there was Blonde Redhead, Shellac, and Fugazi, and then I went a few years later to see Bob Dylan a couple nights in a row. Well, it's like
pretty
10 years later or something.
I had 1 week where I saw Tool, Nirvana, and Rage Against the Machine
Wow.
in 7 days. And the Rage show, Quicksand opened that show, which is an incredible band as well. So
you saw Nirvana?
Yeah, right near the end, though.
Oh, wow,
like
that's
in
amazing.
utero, so pretty close to the end.
Yeah, that would have been the end.
It was crazy. You were at that show too, right? The
Yeah,
one
that's
with the
where I got
shoe.
trampled.
Someone threw a shoe at him, and he went nuts and like stormed off stage.
What was the venue?
It
was the State
Fairgrounds,
Fairgrounds.
yeah.
State
and
Fairgrounds.
I actually got like 5,000 people on the hockey arena, on the floor.
Yeah.
And they hadn't even started yet, and there were so many people pushing. You're a foot and a half off the floor, and you're like, what happened?
wild, yeah.
All of a sudden, I start getting trampled on. I'm falling down. People are stepping on me, and I'm like, and all I can think of in my head is my parents on like Channel 2 News being like, he was such a good boy. He
Yeah.
just wanted to go see a concert. It's
I
like,
will-
I'm going to get trampled to death here.
Let me tell you a story that I've never told anyone. I had an opportunity to go to the In Utero tour when they played Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto.
Same tour, yeah.
But I, at that point, it was just around the time where I started to go to shows. So that would have been 16, probably.
Okay.
16,
Yeah, I was
15,
probably
16.
17.
And I would go to these big shows. I went to another roadside attraction. The first one with this is the thing that the Tragically Hip organized. And it's like 100,000, or not 100,000. It was like 30,
the Blues
20,000
Traveler
people.
year? Was Blues
No.
Traveler?
It was Midnight Oil
Right,
and
okay,
Daniel
yeah.
Lanois and Crash Vegas and Hot House Flowers and the Tragically Hip and a bunch of bands. It was
Yeah.
good. But when the Hip finally came on, people were just waiting all day, Hip fans just waiting all day for the band to come on, and they were, being not so nice to the opening bands. But anyway, it felt like a riot had started, and I was a kid, and I was claustrophobic, and I had a borderline panic attack.
No
I was right at the front of the stage. I didn't know about the moshing and the jumping around, so I got caught in it, and it was like a panic-inducing situation.
Absolutely.
I didn't really like those situations, so I backed away from all of that and watched the show from halfway down the field just because I was like, holy shit, like that was crazy. Anyway, so the Nirvana show comes around. They offer to come, like someone has a ticket, and I say, I don't think I can do it. I just felt like
like,
they were like,
you
no,
wanna
it's a
sit in the
seat.
greens?
It's a seat in the bleachers. I'm like, no, I don't know. There's something about it just makes me a little nervous. So I didn't go. Big regret because I was a huge fan. I was like, I'll catch them next time. That's what I thought.
That was one of the last big
absolutely.
shows that I ever went to. It was like once I got trampled on,
You were
my ears were
traumatized.
bruised.
Yeah.
I was like, I smelt of like stale beer because I got crushed and you're on the floor. And
Yeah.
I was like,
It was
I'm out of here. Like,
it was
I couldn't even enjoy
out
the
of
show.
control. It was, and I remember watching part of it from the bleachers and looking down on that what you're talking about, seeing it from above. Like there must be people dying. Like it was crazy.
It looked insane. It felt insane. I never liked it.
Well, because when he walked off stage, people went nuts. Someone threw his shoe and hit
him
the
in the
guitar, and
face.
he just launched the guitar. And I was like, "Is this part of the show? What's happening?"
Right.
people obviously, and then he came back out. I remember, I'll never forget that. Like, I think Grohl was still playing, and he walks back out, picks up the guitar. It's totally out of tune, and it just starts like playing out of tune and screaming.
Right.
And it was just like this overload. It was, and the crowd, just seething and surging. It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
it was cool.
It was a crazy time.
I mean, it wasn't. I saw it was his 50. It would have been his 50th birthday yesterday. Is that right?
Yeah,
or something? They're all celebrating
February. Yeah.
That's
It's he's always on my mind. I will say, like, that band was huge for me, and it sounds like, I mean, that had an impact on you on some level.
Funny enough, I was talking about how I listened to all the hip hop stuff when I was younger.
Yeah.
It was Smells Like Teen Spirit that made me buy a guitar. All that happened to me. That typical like grunge changed your life
Same
kind
here.
of thing. Totally
Well, you hear it at a
happened to me.
party.
Absolutely.
Like I heard it at a party, and I was like, I'd been listening to 1950s and 60s songs. Like that was
The
me.
Motown stuff.
I'm like this little nerd that was like into that type of music.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't like 80s music. I like Michael Jackson, but I wasn't into like anything popular at that time. And then all of a sudden you hear that and you're like, oh, this is interesting. What is this?
Yeah.
I
And
still
it's just
have
like,
this
how does
cassette
that
single.
grasp you? And it grabbed everybody.
Yeah,
Right? It's
it
like,
did.
just pulls you in.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like we relegated Steven here a little bit. Steven, have you ever seen the Foo Fighters? I hear the drummer, so I want to get a drummer reference in there for you. Did you ever see
the Food Fight?
No.
You know who I used to see was like Jane's Addiction and the Seattle bands, except for Nirvana. I
never got to see Nirvana.
I
Like
saw
Mudhoney
Pearl
and all
Jam
that stuff,
in
the
small,
predecessors?
smaller place. I saw them at the concert hall.
Nice.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Chili Peppers, but I never saw Nirvana. And it's funny though. It was just the other day. Like I heard "Smells Like Teen Spirit" on the radio. I'm like, I was with some buddies. I'm like, this was our music, man.
Yeah.
It's the same as you guys just said. Like,
Well,
it really was.
yeah.
Like
I was
our
like
time,
15 and a half when that came out or something, and it was obviously like, what is this?
Yeah,
it was, it was
that's
so loud.
It's interesting because I keep every time I go to the dentist now, I borderline have a panic attack. I don't know what happened in the last year. I had a bad dentist experience last year, and it was just I switched the dentist because I'm like, they don't know what they're
What
doing.
is this guy doing to you?
They just suck. I can hear him arguing with his assistant. So he's like, "What? That's not the right thing. Oh, what are you doing?" I was like, like I didn't like
That
it.
happened to me when I was ziplining once. The two guys started arguing about how
You
the
are-
harness goes on.
You zip line with
It's
your
part-
dentist? Is that what it is? That's the connection.
No, but these
That's
guys
horrible.
are putting your secure
Yeah.
harness on. Like that's not where it goes. That doesn't go like that.
That's
and
not-
they started arguing in Spanish. It's part of
Oh.
the show, though. It turns out they're trying to scare you.
Oh,
but
I
I was,
see.
we're gonna jump off this tree right now. Like, come on.
Well, I was
Come on,
just
guys.
at the point is I was just at the dentist and they left the music on and "Come As You Are" came on. So
Right.
my last time I had a panic attack was thinking about going to see Nirvana,
Yeah, there's a
and
drill
then
here.
Maybe
there's
it's
a drill.
Nirvana. Yeah.
It might be Nirvana. They make you a little uncomfortable. I think they're an unsettling band in some way.
Sorry.
Now, so we got Windsor. You talk about leaving Windsor. Now you guys met in Toronto.
We all met. Well, we re-met in Toronto because we went to high
That's
school
right.
together.
Yeah, we
That's
went
right.
to the same high school.
Right. You went to high school together, and then
And then had a mutual friend bring us together, our buddy Nick.
in Toronto.
In Toronto, I mean, more in Lindsay. It looked like Casey
Oh,
and my
okay.
buddy Nick were going to school in Lindsay, and I would kind of go up and visit and hang out, and we'd
For
kind of
Sanford Fleming?
Yeah,
No.
I was.
It's a college?
Yep,
And
went
it's
there
kind of-
for
Yeah.
a bunch of stuff, mostly
Yeah.
nothing, but I was there.
So you reconvene in Toronto, then you connect with Steve at the Cameron House,
yeah, and then
and
that
then the
kind of
band
just
becomes a going concern.
yeah. It's like I'd never been really in a band before, and I don't like
No, God, no.
not.
I
Nothing
was
of
in one,
any-
but it was, it was a joke.
It wasn't like it was like you played one show, so I don't really consider that a band. I consider a band where it's like you kind of go on, you write music, and,
Yeah.
And so this is for me my first band, Casey, and
So
then
far, yeah.
we added Steve, and then we've just been rolling ever since. Which is
Funny this,
pretty
like,
crazy.
actually, speaking of revealing things you never revealed, when we did meet and we started being a band, and we went to Windsor for the first time, and I met Casey's parents and Mark's parents. They're very nice people, and they still have the house they grew up in, which I don't anymore because my parents moved on and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and I found myself thinking, I was also a bit older than these guys, and thinking that self-conscious about what do their parents think of me. Like, I'm bringing them into this world of like music out of their good jobs.
It's like the Ronnie Hawkins syndrome thing.
Yeah,
Right.
like
Oh, I never thought of
they
that.
want to
Yeah.
do it, but I'm like also participant in that, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so
You were the
so-
bad
They'll never
older
forgive
brother.
you, Steve.
Yeah,
They will
yeah.
never forgive you.
So I had to try extra hard to be a nice guy too.
Right. Right.
I'm still trying.
So I have a sense memory of the first time I saw Elliott Brood at the E-Bar
Oh yeah.
in
Oh, yeah.
Guelph, and I think you were opening for someone.
Silverhearts probably. Was it?
I don't
Silverhearts?
remember who it was.
I know we played with them there, and I know we only played that bar maybe twice.
I know my friend Lil put on the show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Milanovic.
Lil
She's the
Milanovic.
best.
Milanovic, yeah. So
Milanovic,
Lil
sorry.
puts on the
Sorry,
show.
Lil.
No, it's okay. It's fine. She puts on the show, and I don't know who you guys are. And I bought your Tintype EP that day. I still have because it was a specially packaged thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, when
It's like a mini disc or something.
It was. It wasn't a mini disc. It was just a
sorry,
smaller,
a mini CD
CD.
player. It wasn't a mini disc. It was a mini CD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just kind of designed them more because we didn't have enough funds to actually go out and press an album like 3,000 or 1,000 or whatever, and we didn't even know if anybody would even like it. So we're just like, let's hand make it.
Honestly, remember being blown away. Like I don't know,
that's
you know,
awesome.
it's a good combo of like a good sound person, whoever it was that night, but you in particular, Mark, like I was just like, what is this voice? Like it was crazy. It just sounded so full and kind of angry and so melodic at the same time. It was great. So
Thanks.
I became a fan right away.
cool.
And were you in the band at that point?
Probably.
You would have been.
I would have
yeah.
been, yeah.
Yeah,
Any shows outside of Toronto, pretty much.
Right, and you had a
Yeah.
thing. One of your things for a long time, Stephen, was that you wouldn't play a drum kit.
I had a suitcase. Well, you got to go with what suits it. No pun
That was a
intended.
pun. That was like
It
a
was
dad joke
it
pun.
was unintentional.
Yeah.
But yeah, I used a suitcase for a long
Now,
time.
why did you do that?
Well, when I first saw the guys, they were stomping and playing, and then of course we recorded the record, and then it came to the point where maybe I could play with them. Blah blah blah. They wanted that to happen.
You're on the EP, right? Do you play
Hand
on the EP?
claps.
Oh, your hand claps on
yeah,
the EP, right?
Yeah, hand claps.
And he forced us to play bass on the EP, which is
In
on
one
song.
spot, right?
And we,
That's
yeah,
right. Yeah.
like we
And
just
it-
we
yeah.
wanted it so stripped down.
Yeah.
But in all fairness
Yeah.
to Steve, is like he was trying to replicate what a foot stomp sounds like on a wooden floor, right?
Yeah,
And that's
sure.
kind of
Yeah,
that was it. And that's
exactly.
why we used the
Right,
suitcase for
okay.
a
Yeah,
while.
because the drum set would be like overwhelming
Right.
the sound, which
So it
is
was-
primarily acoustic. But then the amps came, and hence the kick drum.
Yeah, you had a bad incident, didn't you? You bust through a suitcase at a
Oh, yeah.
show,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
that was it. You
Well,
couldn't
The
do
only
it
good
again?
ones, we always say this, the only good ones that we could find was going through Chicago. This
That's right.
weird store in Chicago. We kept finding them and we buy them in bulk. But
Yeah.
the whole thing is like they break. It's not like a drum head that you can kind of
Yeah.
go to any store and get another drum
You don't
head.
have backup suitcases.
I
on.
did at the time, but then actually when that last one broke, I had a backup kick drum because it was a Mountain Meadows tour, and we were in Montreal, and I was like, when this goes, we're moving along.
Yeah.
Because I was hitting it too hard at that point.
That's a weird thing because some people would have seen it as a bit of shtick or gimmicky. You know what I mean? You got to be careful with
I
that
was
stuff.
cognizant of that. For
You're
sure.
trying to get a sound,
but it was
not-
the sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was not, and it wasn't because you had a tendency to leave the stage. You're like, I'm taking my stuff. It's all packed up, and I
I
am
never
leaving.
actually got that far.
That would be an amazing way to leave the stage. Is you actually pick the drum up,
Pick
and
up
go
the
off.
suitcase, and like, I am
Now
out
that's
of
a
here. Train ticket in hand, you know. Anyway, all right. So yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
been an interesting trajectory for the band. But so you these bigger cities. I mean, Windsor's not a big city, but we've talked about Detroit. We've talked about Toronto. Now we are in Hamilton, Ontario, which is a big city.
It is.
but it is smaller compared to Toronto. How have you all ended up in Hamilton? Why are we in Hamilton today in this space?
Mark started it.
Mark started it.
I left like 7 years ago.
You left Toronto
Yeah.
to move to Hamilton.
To move to Hamilton and not knowing anybody in Hamilton. It was just kind of like, let's take a chance. It was like we had just had a baby. It was like, there's houses that are really affordable there. We can actually afford a house as opposed to being in debt up to our eyeballs and
Yeah.
maybe not being a family. You know what I mean? Like things,
Yeah.
life gets on you and money woes. And I just kind of just took a chance and picked the most amazing street for us. We back onto a park. The escarpment's right there. The Bruce Trail is right across the street from our house. And I don't know, fell in love with Hamilton. And then I thought I was going to be the only one here. I kind of traversed back and forth for 6 months to record Mountain Meadows.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I don't think anybody's going to come. And then 2 years later,
And totally
Or 3 years
by
later.
coincidence. I think all three of us, really, because you have to
It's not
take
a
your own life
It's not a
into account.
coincidence.
No, I
mean,
honestly...
one of your guys in your band was here.
Oh,
It
Yeah,
just
wasn't
You
about
want-
to
I
move
know.
to
We're just like
Oshawa.
walking down the street. Mark, what are you doing here?
But
Oh,
no,
yeah.
honestly, it can't, my wife was like, maybe we should try Hamilton. I was like literally thinking of Kingston, Barrie,
Oh.
Guelph, like, you know, I
You
wasn't
wanted out of
thinking of
Toronto.
Hamilton. It wasn't my thing. But
Well, why did you want out of Toronto?
Similar trajectory as Mark, like, you know, kids wanting to buy a house, can't do it
Yeah.
in Toronto.
Yeah.
You know, let's look somewhere else. And
Him?
you know, I wanted the band to go on, but I don't think we moved here as a band per se.
Right,
But
I
it was very
understand.
fortuitous that we did.
Right. Okay.
well, and
Yeah.
now we're where we're at. Like Casey's in Dundas, and then we got this place almost like 2 years ago now. A little bit 2 years in September or whatever. But it's just like a place that we call the office, and we come here every day during the week from 9:30 after dropping our kids off till 2:30 in the afternoon. We come here and write and record and put our hearts into this place, which is, pretty awesome.
Okay.
We have to. It's expensive.
You're renting this space, right?
Yeah.
It's not. I'm just kidding, but it is a good place to have.
It's pricey, but
work
you don't
every day.
have like cacophonous bands all around you.
No,
and,
it
like,
seems very.
It's probably the
nice.
price of like 2 studio days a month or something.
Right.
So think of it that way. We're getting, almost 20.
I just mean once you start putting money down to be in a place, you better show up and be there and use it. Like we use it a lot.
I mean, this
obviously.
is your Elliott BROOD is your job, right?
It is.
is,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
It's
It's
made-
our
you
company.
made-
It's our business.
It's your business.
It's our corporation.
So it's not that crazy that you would come in 9 to 2:30. Those are slacker hours, by the way. But 9
is
to 2:30. Those are actually my hours.
to
I
us,
should
it's
say.
like work.
So 9 to
the
3,
job.
you're here
Pretty
every
much,
day. And how does your day? Tell me about a day. Tell me about a typical day, work day for Elliott BROOD.
We
Casey?
roll in with Dad's,
Yeah.
Granddad's donuts.
We chart.
Every-
we
yes,
chat
right.
for about a half hour.
If you
about-
can see us, we're all huge now. Granddad's every single morning.
Oh, the donuts are amazing.
Yeah, they are good.
We roll in here. We probably just converse like
Do
you would
business.
normally do at any
Yeah.
business for about a half hour, and then we try to get down to.
Is there a water
the
cooler?
task.
Do you hang around the water
There's a beer
cooler?
fridge
There's a
over
beer
there.
fridge.
Okay.
We get plenty of beer from Clifford Beer, which is amazing. We are friends with Brad Clifford.
Oh, okay.
And so we're sort of stocked. Not that we drink all day. We don't do
Just
that.
beer and donuts. You guys, what is happening to you?
Yeah, like a
No.
Simpsons episode in here.
No, but we have water, and so we just kind of we sit here and we actually.
It's a slow. We don't. Yeah, there's no rush usually.
Right.
We're in here between 9:30 and 10. Right now, we're kind of reviewing some mixes and stuff when we can, and we're touching up stuff for our next record. So we're kind of focused on that. We've been doing a bunch of stuff for a TV show named Bellevue, some music for that. So we've been busy. There's been more than enough to do, but usually everyone's got to leave by around 3 to get the kids and whatever. So
Right.
yeah, it's it's a good get 6 hours at least a day in here.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's more productive than other days.
How does this compare to the way you used to function before this space?
we didn't
It's totally different.
totally different because we really didn't have time or space to really practice and or write. And this is the one thing about Hamilton as well is and hopefully it can continue, but the way it's looking is probably not, is Hamilton's changing so much more towards the way Toronto is. We would never have been able to afford this in Toronto at all.
Well, we rented rehearsal what's it called? The big one, the one that rents out
The rehearsal factory? Or
We did
whatever?
our last record kind of going on whatever nights we could in Mississauga and meeting because I was still in Toronto. At
Is that what
point.
it's called? The rehearsal
Yeah,
factory?
rehearsal
Yeah.
factory.
They have.
We did all our
places.
pre-pro there.
Surprisingly enough, they don't have one here yet. I'm sure they'll open one here eventually.
Yeah.
There's surprisingly little studio space in town right now, or maybe there is now.
In
When
Hamilton?
when we were looking, it was actually kind of hard to find a place. But I think you would think that's something that's going to become more available. I'm sure that company's looking out here going,
Well,
there's
don't give them a
empty
heads up.
factories.
They may not have had the idea until they hear this episode. Now
They're nice
gonna
people.
Get this place jumping. With
I mean, I don't know. Maybe
factories.
it's not there yet, but
Yeah.
it does seem like a lot of people are here, and everyone who has a studio hangs on to it because it's, it wasn't that easy to find this place. So
But you say you all fell in love with Hamilton. What is
Yeah.
it about the city
Not
that?
me.
Not you. You moved to Dundas.
He's a Dundas man.
Dundas guy.
And,
My
and, ju-
mo-
and just so you know,
Yeah.
Dundas is not a part of Hamilton.
No.
no, they won't
I was
tell you that.
separate.
I
That's-
was just there on Saturday. It's very lovely.
It's a pretty place. My mom's from Hamilton. My family's from Windsor and Hamilton, so I, right down the bluest collar.
yeah. Yeah.
I do like Hamilton. It's great.
Yeah.
I think that it's an awesome place. I have to leave though. That's the unfortunate part.
You
I'm
were
moving
saying
back.
you have to move back.
I got to go back to Toronto for a while for work stuff. Not myself. My wife's got
You
a job
renting?
there. Yes, I'm just
Gonna
putting
be
the
a
deposit
homeowner
down
in
today.
Dundas. Oh, really?
Deposit is down today.
You're a high roller now.
Yeah.
You've got a place in Toronto.
Yeah,
a
and that's
place
why
in
my
Dundas.
heart is beating and my left arm hurts right now. I know it's insanity, but we're gonna hang on to it and hopefully rent the place in Dun. It's a little complicated, but
Sure.
it's an insane time for us. So
Yeah.
we'll be back up in the Junction area, and
Okay.
I'm back there for a while.
So, is there anything about the quality of the city that impacts your band? Is it seeped into? I mean, you named it. Wasn't your last record named after a Constantine song, or a Constantine's lyric?
Work in
Yeah,
Love. It
it's
takes,
lyric,
takes
yeah.
the lyrics from
Right, it
that.
takes the lyrics from the song "Soon Enough" by the
Yeah, which is
Constantines.
amazing.
Such a
Right,
monster.
which is nice. But I think of work on Hamilton. Hamilton is known as one of the ultimate blue collar cities. It's known for steel production, and I just wonder, does that? I don't know if that fed into that title or that those songs. But
Well, I mean, growing up in Windsor and Hamilton
Yeah.
are very
Yeah.
similar, and I think that's maybe why I feel really comfortable here. And it's just like
yeah, it's similar.
it's Hamilton feels like a small town. Like everybody like it does, like the musical community is like, we came in here and there's like, next thing you know is like, you start to know everybody. It's like, wow, it is small in that sense, but it's like, people are going out and doing their thing. I don't know. I just really like the sense that it is in Hamilton. Like, kids can still be kids.
I think there's also that underdog feeling here that a lot of people have. Like, people really like try to kick ass at like doing things, because there is that feeling of like no one notices us, and there's a lot of people here, and whether they were born here or came here, what I notice is as soon as someone is here, they are completely pro Hammer all the time, like rooting for it, right? Because you become a part of this community here, and it's fun to be that like little group. Literally, like the group of musicians here could all fit in this Ain't Hollywood and have a party, and they'd all be there. Everyone shows. A lot of people. I don't show up to a lot of shows because I still have 2 small kids, so I can't go out as much. But it seems like whenever anyone is doing something, the rest of everyone is there to help out and be there. So
regardless of genre or anything, everybody supports
it's
whatever
a very
you're doing.
strong community
awesome.
of
Seems
people,
that way,
and some of my favorite artists are from here. Lee Reed is amazing. The hip hop artist from here is just incredible. Lots of great. Tara Lightfoot is here.
Yeah, she's.
You guys are. Yeah. Anyway, I guess what the angle I'm trying to push is, you guys are talking about this work ethic you've established in this space. In this,
I see where you're mining at.
So I'm trying to figure out if
blue collar musicians.
If that had something to. It sort of maybe is an extension of being here.
Well, the type of town it is lends itself to us being able to do this.
Well, I was saying before, we're still looking for a punch clock for this room. We got to find an old like style factory punch clock, because every job I ever did had those old like
I hated those
card
things.
But it would make sense for what we're doing here. And we've talked about it. We're just looking online every now and then to see if you can get one.
Right.
Proof you were here for our long 9 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
No overtime, boys.
You've talked about the city a little bit. You've talked about the accessibility in terms of being able to afford a space in this city. What about the room itself? What about the space itself? What kind of qualities?
It's big enough to have a tone. We can get a bit of reverb. You can go put mics further out in the room, which is great. I think we were really excited about that when we built it. There were a lot of anomalies that came with the room that we didn't know about. There's the truck situation. We're going to put some sound baffling out on the street to stop the trucks.
Because when they roll by the big trucks,
you hear
they'll shake the building.
Shakes.
You'll hear them go.
Yeah. Oh, is it?
Every now and then
a busy
you'll hear
thoroughfare for trucks.
That's
you hear it occasionally,
Canon
but
or whatever.
Besides, that's not a. I mean, more of the issues were to do with the heating system and the AC in the summer and some.
You mean they kick in and then there's
you hear a bit of the fans and things.
Right,
so we had to figure out ways, like we put up a slight wall over there.
Our album gets less noisy as you listen to it too.
that's
We've
right.
learned ways
The
to
early tracks
as
are
we've
full
gone
of
on
noise.
track. But if you listen to the next record, it'll be noisy and then it'll sound perfect by the end.
right. Okay.
We've learned as we've gone to eliminate some of the little sounds. Like the fridge will come on, like, damn, that was a good take. But no, it's a great space. There's enough room for all of us. We sort of each have our little stations. It's sort of messy in here right now, but a lot of cabling and stuff. It's comfortable. We have the mixing, and Steve spends a lot of time these days actually engineering kind of stuff we're doing right now. But we've actually created the room to work as a live room, and we have proof of that now, which is great. We did a track that's basically, we have it set up. We have amps sort of isolated in the bathroom, and so we can get a little separation, and we can actually do the songs live now, which is great.
Our soundman Dino also shares. Dino Friscella shares the space with us, so we're fortunate to use his board, which is a digital board. And
what kind of board is it?
It's called a Behringer X32. And he brings it live.
Okay.
And some of the mics here are his as well. But so we can rehearse through monitors. But with the functionality of the board, you can rehearse through monitors or through headphones, or use it as a processor as well.
Right.
Like you can basically track through it when we're multi-tracking. We track through it, and otherwise we use this little UAD interface that I have.
Okay.
Which, for smaller stuff,
right,
like overdubs.
So the presumption, I think, just given your engineering background, studio work background, is that you probably got this space up and running. Is that fair? Or did you guys contribute to the technical aspects?
I plugged this mic in.
I hung up some
Mark built that
pictures
wall.
and built that wall.
And painted it.
You built a wall.
And
I
these
did.
were
I
already
put the wall
here.
up, yeah.
The ceiling.
I did the real estate deal.
Yeah.
So I
Did you
found
really?
it. I
Yeah.
found it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
and I was in competition with another. This was the best. And I hate this. Is going to be funny. There was 3 people that came. One was totally not going to get this place because the landlords were interviewing the 3 of us at the same time. And one was this.
What? You were
We
all
all showed
like
up
at the same time?
Yeah, to see the space. And so there's, I think one person left because the price was too much money. So it's me and this like 17-year-old super stoner kid And I like actually, for me, dressed up to come in. It was pretty solid that we were going to get the place. It was they looked at both. I was like, sorry, kid. There's no way, man. We have like credit references.
The kid had nothing.
But he was like, he's going to start his, studio space or whatever.
He
came on a skateboard. I was like, you're in trouble, man. It's not going to happen for you.
Do you know what this space was before you guys took it over?
I believe it was
another
someone else's
band.
space. Yeah, I think
A band studio.
Born in the 80s, we used to practice here.
Oh.
And
Colin?
sorry.
Greg Santilli, that was born in the 80s.
Right.
So
You know what else I love about Hamilton? Not to get off topic, but it's like, somewhat on topic. Is like you're saying born in the 80s, and you're like, Greg Santilli is like, we all played baseball or hockey, and nobody talks about their bands.
Right.
So you don't actually know who was in what band.
Right.
Like the Dubervilles and all of that stuff.
D'Urbervilles.
Dubervilles, sorry.
They changed their name.
I like
to,
Dubervilles better. That's a better
They
pronunciation.
had, that 17-year-old kid got this space. Guaranteed he would have listened
He
to
probably
the
would have
Dubervilles.
used it, and he could be famous right now. He could be like that Shawn Mendes. Who knows? Could be that big from
Yeah.
this
So
little
we ruined
humble
it for
beginnings.
him.
No, but
That's
it's true.
okay.
Like, it's a close-knit community is what you're saying.
yeah.
And there's probably a lot of history in this room that you
So I don't know who. I can't recall who was.
But it's been
actually in
it's
before.
been
It
known
was
as
a
a band
physical
space.
training
I think it
room,
was at least
I think,
before
at
us.
one
It
point.
was, yeah.
There's a like way behind the furnace. There's this shower, and they don't even know why it's there. The landlord's like, "There's a shower here,"
It's the shame shower. That's what I call it.
He
but I
doesn't know
think
why
it
there's a
used to
shower
also
there?
be like a physical training.
Oh.
place,
It's been
and
used for other
it's
things.
been, like,
Actually, the photos when I came here, it was done up
telemarketing.
more like an office. Whoever had been in here had taken all their stuff out, but it was used for some sort of office or something. I don't know,
Okay.
at some point. But I looked at I went to, I think Steve came to see a
there's a
couple
lot
of
of
them. One
AC.
guy was going to set us up he was building a square box in his storage warehouse for vending machines, and he was going to rent it to us for $500 a month.
God.
It was literally just in this warehouse, like a cage.
Right.
Like, have you seen that Netflix show, The OA?
I haven't watched
You
it.
haven't
I
watched
was
it? Okay,
flipping
well,
through
get
it.
that idea of what he was
Okay,
building for
yeah.
us.
anti-sound.
And it was just
he had
like-
half a wall. He's like,
it was
"Well, you guys can finish
unbelievable.
the wall." It was around the same price as this, but he's like,
Oh, okay.
"Yeah, you guys can just finish the wall."
Yeah, he's like, "Put up whatever
we'll
you
be
want."
here in the day,
But it was
working.
he essentially was building like a band cage inside his. I don't know what's in there now. Hopefully, we should go check and see what he had put
Right.
in there. But,
Right.
And
But
then
this
there
is
was
home now, though.
Yeah,
This is your home. Okay. Now you guys have.
Do you want
been-
another donut?
Not
You
right
just
now.
finished that.
No, I just finished my donut. It took 40 minutes, but I was
He's
nursing
savoring
it.
it.
I'm gonna go to Granddad's after we're done here to get a dozen for my family because we didn't get enough from the 20.
Yesterday.
The 12 we ate in less than 24 hours when I was in Dundas the other day. No, I was gonna say, you guys have been around a long time. You know each other very well. You know each other's tendencies as players very well. In this new batch of music you're making, are there things that are taking place that are surprising any of you about where you're coming at it? Or
More, you know what? I started taking piano lessons, and the funny thing is I'm taking piano lessons, but Casey's actually a way better piano player than myself, and Steve is actually a trained pianist.
Oh, I took him when I was younger.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But there's a lot more
There's keys.
piano playing and keys on this record than I would have expected,
Huh.
and it's actually really.
Well, Mark bought this Nord thing about
Yeah.
4 years ago. He's like, "We got to have a Nord in the band," and we agreed, and we were like, "Yeah, let's get a Nord." And then, so
Is this something you
we've
use
kinda
live?
had it.
we will
will
be.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you
gonna
will be
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but now
We have
that
to.
now that it's always sort of going through an amp and mic'd up and everything, we're
It's the
using
one
it.
benefit of actually having this place is that all of our gear is set up and we can kind of create on the fly.
Yeah.
Where it's like if we didn't have this space, the Nord would never be set up. It would
And
just be
I think
against
also
the
we're
wall.
going to that for melody before guitars for some reason now. Like if Mark has a sketch of something, I'll just walk over there and a lot of it's being written on that. Some of the melodies anyway. So it'll end up being on guitar or something else. But if even Friday or whatever it was Thursday Mark had a sketch on guitar, and instead of going to guitar, I just sat there instead. So some of the songs have, especially we have a lot of material kind of getting ready right now. There's a lot of that sound on it. A lot of mandolin and stuff. Nice little touches. Different, it's fun to play different things and
What
whatever.
do you suppose inspired the keyboard thing? Just the fact that you were taking lessons?
Del
My
Shannon.
wife was like, "Hey, what would you like for Christmas?" And I was like, just off the top of my head, I'm like, "I want piano lessons."
I said the same thing a few years ago.
and so I'm not very good.
Uh-huh.
But the whole thing is like, if I have to
Your
read and
G-scale
play,
down?
not very good. But it's like just kind of
Don't happen
figuring it
overnight.
out. I can do that. It's like same with Casey. It's like just playing for playing's sake,
Yeah.
as opposed to reading and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
kind of understanding on that sense.
But do you know why you asked for piano lessons? What was it?
I took them when I was like 5 years old and quit because my grandparents, they were like my dad's parents, passed away consecutively in 2 years.
Oh.
And I always kind of wanted to play piano
Yeah.
and just got, when I obviously was a teenager, got more into guitar. It was like, oh, I'd really like to play piano.
Right.
And so I don't know. It's just like, and it's factored into this record. It's kind of funny how you kind of like, for whatever reason, not known to myself or anybody else, it's just like you get on a trajectory, and so it's kind of played a part in this record for sure.
There is also probably that thing about being a musician and knowing how to play music, learning it. I don't, it's a good thing to learn it as well too. We both sort of come from a place where I still don't understand theory. Maybe I'll learn it as we go or whatever, but it's good to learn that stuff too.
I mean,
it can't be bad.
I don't get the impression that you guys sit around consciously talking about how your sound might change, or
definitely not.
You're just playing and seeing what happens, right?
Like, quite honestly, I think it is a lot to do with the fact that we have that thing just sitting there. So it's just become. I'm pretty, short attention span sometimes. So if we're sitting,
I'm
with
aware.
Guitar, I play guitar a lot. You know me well, don't you?
I'm surprised you finished that sentence.
And barely. But then no, it's just sitting there. So like, if I'm not feeling something on guitar, I can just walk over there while he's playing, or he can do the same, or Steve can jump on there. Like, even there's parts that Mark had an idea in his head what he's doing, and then Steve will play it because he just has more currently right now. Like, you'll write the part, and then Steve will play part of that because you have more of a...
Sometimes it goes back.
Or the other way. Yeah, absolutely.
Summer I tried forever. I even took it home.
Yeah.
Tried it on piano. That's not it.
Exactly.
Not it. And then, Mark finally played what he wanted, but between the two of us, we're like a three-legged race, so we got it done.
We use it as a tool. It's much like any instrument that we know. Is like, I never took lessons on guitar, never took lessons on banjo. Casey didn't, mandolin and all that stuff. It's just like we're just using them as tools to kind of get our sound or the idea for songs out, and that's it. It's just like whatever helps shape a song. What are you
It's very
say?
similar to how I actually use power tools, which is dangerous. Not a lot of I stay away from saws, but like if you're trying to drill into something, or
you just pick
aren't
it
you
up.
supposed to drill a pilot hole? I don't know. Just screw that in
Pick it
there
up and try it. That's the
Give
thing
it a hell. I don't know what this knob does, but if I turn it a bunch of times, maybe I'll figure out how it works.
I think as you become an adult and maybe a dad, that's been my experience too. It's like I don't know how to. My dad tried to get me to learn how to do that stuff, but my
dad's a genius at all that stuff, and it just didn't translate.
You had the parents that could just build like
mine is.
No, they didn't do that.
No.
Okay, mine could just.
You're a natural. You got it down.
My dad is
wall.
like, do not touch power tools.
And we put this wall up.
Use them. Stay away from them. I'm like, well, you stayed away from them, but I enjoy them.
Did this wall go up before Trump started talking about it, or was it after? It wasn't inspired. Yeah, this was like before we had the idea first.
We built the wall.
Well, it's kind of funny that you guys are do-it-yourselfers, because I think it's just the thing that happens now for me, and I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just willing to, like with tools, I just didn't do that stuff as a kid.
I just had to patch a wall because I tore a closet out of my house, which took plaster off. No, out of like necessity to fix the room up, thinking it would just be an easy job. So this was supposed to be take the wood out of the closet out, paint it, done. Pull the wood out, rips the plaster off the wall. So I have to this is learning how to do it as you go. And I'm calling my dad like, what do? I just ripped a hole in my wall. What's happening? Figured it out. It's not the best.
Well, the other kind of wussy thing about all of this is that, like, so my washing machine broke a couple years ago,
tough one.
And a YouTube video showed me how to fix it.
Right.
I had to take my entire washing machine apart.
You did it?
I was inside my dryer last week doing the same thing.
Yeah, and it's just because someone had a 3-minute YouTube video explaining how to do it. But yeah, I had the whole thing out, and that's not something I was so proud of myself.
Absolutely.
As you should be.
And then I put it back in. I'm like, I learned this from a YouTube video. Like, that just made me feel like a little less important.
Well, it's like,
but that's what you do.
But, that's how you got to do it.
Do you learn from a book, or do you learn?
We learn
from
actually
physically doing it. So watching somebody else, it's like training.
It is.
But watching somebody else do
video
it.
now. I know, it's just a new reality.
That's how YouTube for power tools. I did a bunch of 90s covers with my friends. I learned songs on YouTube.
Degenerating into a power tool.
No, but learning songs. It used to be hard to learn songs. Buy a tab book or whatever.
Yeah.
Go on YouTube and watch some kid playing a video game. It'll teach you how to play every Tool song you ever want to know. It's
my whole life I wanted to learn how to play Beatles songs on pianos, and now you just watch a YouTube video and like I don't quite know why I'm doing it, but at least I can physically maybe do it now.
There's one more thing before we close this topic.
I don't know. We're gonna close it.
It's an amazing
He's
tool.
in control, actually.
It's tool
that
time.
right there. Do you know what that thing is with the 2 mics on it? The Zoom H4. It's like Mark and Casey each own one. It's totally their friends. Like they do a lot of their home demos on it.
Uh-huh.
And no matter how much we sometimes try to recreate things here, you put the H4 up and it's got a great sound. And we're always sort of reverting a lot of the time to that. So that's
we're using it as a
sort of
main
an
microphone on a lot
indispensable-
of songs, basically.
Yeah. It's like you can use it for tons of things from far away.
But
or
sorry,
close
this
up.
is in relation to how.
You were asking about the
Just
what
trying
kind of
stuff.
tools. Yeah,
Yeah.
like what's great about this room,
Yeah,
and what the Nord. It began with the Nord,
I was gonna.
and I might say it also ends with the H4. It
Yeah,
always comes back.
I was going to say, like, you guys were talking about how things are just set up in here, so that's why they might make it onto a record or might influence a song. That's the room.
Right.
That is
exactly.
the influence of
Sure.
the room.
Yeah, right.
No, it is, because we've never got to work this way before.
Right.
We'll come in with demos and
Yeah.
work. We've never had this chance. And right now we have up 2 records under our belt to go forward, basically.
2?
Well, they're not finished, but the songs that we're working on.
This
there's
record
enough
that-
material for 2.
Plus, we found a
We've
bunch
never
of
had
old
that kind of a
stuff too to work
stockpile,
with.
Sorry?
Right? We found a bunch of old stuff that was unreleased that we're pooling from as well. So it's
okay.
kind of like we've got this sort of old become new.
So wait, how many
music.
songs would you say?
Well, this record that we're doing next is when I moved out here, I found one of our drives that we thought we lost. Like, how many years ago was that? I don't
6
know.
years ago, 7.
6 or 7. It was like an old elephant drive or whatever. So all these songs that we thought they were like sort of demos and in
Sketches,
early
yeah.
stages and whatever. And then we're like, we got to make this record. So that's what this next record is we've kind of taken them and re-recorded them. But they were ideas that we thought were gone. They're in the bottom of this bin I had.
That's
Because
interesting.
everything was like packed away.
Yeah.
We didn't have space to actually put everything where we wanted to put it and do what we wanted
just
to do
got
it.
lost.
And we just kind of discovered it once we kind of moved
But
in.
once we
were
saw
like,
what the files were, it's like, what's this song? This is like, there's stuff on this record
It's
that
like the old
originally
merch.
were sketches from Tintype that will now be, that are fleshed out and on this. They were songs that from the same era anyways.
That's
at the time.
interesting because I think of you guys, and you can correct me if I'm wrong or if this has changed in recent years, but I think of you guys as I don't want to say a conceptual album band, but I think of you guys as really thinking about the album as an entity that might have threads through it or themes that run through it. That's
what's important for us.
That's accurate, right?
Yeah,
It's
oh,
like
yeah.
at a narrative,
Yeah.
almost a narrative structure. So now, this is a departure because you're going back. Like, are you going to try to figure out a way to connect the songs on this
I
record?
think a lot of them are anyways. They are all from then anyway. So
Oh,
they were
okay.
in mind at that time. This is sort of this group of things that were all together. So it's like, it was strange to find them and go, oh, this was one that didn't make sense with Tintype. Neither did this one.
When did
But together.
Tintype come out again?
2004.
We recorded it in 2002.
2.
But
Yeah,
our
the
first
end-
tour
the
was
end of the year.
But it
2004.
didn't
with
really
it.
come out on any label, which was WeWork, until 2004.
Like that
Right.
E-Bar show probably was 2003 or 4 then.
Right.
Ish.
Yeah, I have.
you
Again, I still have
Yeah.
the little. It was handmade kind of
We
thing.
still get complaints that people get them
So the
stuck in their
thing,
CD
I
players.
think the theme that actually ties it together is just like us now and then, right? It's just like
That's what I was going to say.
it's
Like 15 years later, maybe, roughly.
Well, for these songs, like 6 or 7, because it was when we were in Toronto.
6
still.
or 7 years.
Yeah. That
Oh,
they
I
had-
see. Okay.
Yeah, those ones, anyways.
Okay.
Well, no, but like
Oh,
something like
Tintype.
two-
Some of the Tintype
some
ones
of the stuff is from that, like 2, 4,
yeah.
6, 8, and whatever is like from
that
all
era.
the way back from.
Well, it just usually takes
originally.
a chronological milestone, like a 10, 15, 20-year anniversary for a band to reflect on something
It's
they've
weird,
done
yeah, it's
for
a long time.
so long ago. But it sounds like that's something you've, just because of technology and a discovery,
Losing
you're having to
things.
do that now, in a sense. Like,
Or
oh,
that you can, right? It's
Right.
Like you're able to be like, oh, it was up to a certain point, but now you kind of take it and look at it from this new perspective. You've aged and you've kind of grown, and you're like, oh, how do we?
Well, yeah, I mean,
approach
we've
this?
arranged things differently than what we had originally. But
so
they
you've
were thoughts.
rearranged, but what about lyrically?
Some of them have changed a little. They've been not all of them had full thought out lyrics at
Okay.
the time. So they've the most, at least from my side of things, the lyrics are more new.
And
I-
2468 kind of grew a bit.
Yeah,
It kind of
that
took on a
changed a lot,
different
actually.
tone.
Sorry, that's the song?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, okay.
It's
I
like
thought you were just counting.
it's like a baseball chant. 2468. Who do we
We saw
appreciate?
Feist Success with 1, 2, 3, 4, and we thought, hey guys,
Just gonna kick
let's
it up
double up.
exactly one notch. Yeah,
and
okay.
You see what happened with that song. What could go wrong for us?
So yeah, I just think lyrically, when you in particular, well, it happens with music too, but when you actually encounter something that you haven't seen or heard in 10, 15 years, you can be like, whoa, like where was I at that point? That's why I ask if
Yeah.
it could be interesting to actually.
oh, there's still some songs that were on there that we would never try to bring out because they're just terrible.
right, sure,
But
sure.
I mean, you
these
have
are the
to
ones
be-
that are like, yeah.
You have to be rough on them, right? And
Right.
Kind of fair to what you want to hear and see,
Right.
right? But
But okay, that's cool. So you're working on that, and you've got at least 2 records worth, maybe.
Ish, yeah, right now.
But you're not no double record. Per
No,
se.
no. You got to stretch it out. This business is unforgiving.
This is
There's
a one-album
This ain't the
business.
70s.
This isn't. I was gonna say Smashing Pumpkins and
Right.
Right.
Yeah, no,
There's
no idea.
melancholy in the
First of all,
Sadness,
these songs on this next, they wouldn't make any sense to what the next sort of theme is for the next bunch,
Okay.
which make more sense together. So, like, we were essentially starting what will be a further record before we found this stuff. So there was a bunch of stuff started in what we thought we were gonna do. Like, well, let's. Then that came up as like we sort of got caught into that. Like, well, we could. These songs should see the light of day. These are
Right.
great songs. So that's how that sort of happened.
So as it stands, this sorry to go back to the space for just a second, but
problem.
the space seems to have, I don't know, inspired and influenced a lot of the decisions you are making lately. Do you see this as a space you would share with people, or is this just the EB space? Like this is your
Discussed
HQ,
it, but it's hard to. It's our HQ right now because we're here so
and
much.
it's an office.
Yeah,
It
and
is.
the minute you have to share, then you have to move everything. Move the
Okay.
mics.
And I might have to live here part time when I'm commuting from Toronto. So
You might actually literally.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't want to.
good thing for the shower.
Yeah. The old shame shower.
Well, you guys sound like you're in a good space.
It's not bad.
I mean, literally and figuratively.
It
you sound
allows
like you're-
us to create, and that's an amazing thing that I don't think we've had in our career up until like a year and a half ago.
Good for you.
Yeah,
That's great. Now, traditionally at this point in the show, I will ask the guest, if they're a musician or a comedian or whoever, if we can go out on a song from a record that we've been talking about. You don't have a new record out, so who wants to pick one?
I guess the one maybe that we'll pick. Yeah, I guess it's called The Fall.
The Fall.
Yeah, and,
Okay.
and it's kind of like I wrote it after reading the very first episode of Bellevue, and kind of just it's like the interplay between the daughter and the father, even though the father has kind of passed away. It's kind of like this conversation that they're having post-death, and it just kind of plays into the overall theme of the show, actually. And it's kind of I don't know. And they picked it. It's going to be
The show picked it.
Yeah, it's going to play as the final song on the outro of the last episode.
The season finale.
Yes.
Yeah.
As far
Okay.
as we know, if that changes, that's I don't know.
Then we're
Okay.
screwed.
Then it's weird. But if we still the song will still come
The
out.
song is going to come out maybe on one of your records as
It
well.
will be for sure on our next record, and it should be in the last scene of this great show. And we hope the show does well. It's
Okay.
been cool to do
And
it.
and just before we go, the fall, obviously that's a season, but it's also it indicates something has
The
fallen.
end of something.
Yeah, it's ended. Is that what meaning are you going for there?
Well, fall from grace. It's kind
Okay.
of like it's like not going. It's like going to a place where you didn't think you were going to go.
Right.
And it's like,
Oh, I thought it was FOLL. Okay, I'm getting this now.
how do you pronounce fall again?
Fall.
What?
Follies.
Like folly?
Oh, okay.
That's as
Did
good
you
as it's
really?
gonna- No, I didn't.
No.
No,
Oh,
I'm
no,
just
no,
like,
no.
what?
Being funny.
I'm like, it's been written up there for
Comic
like.
I
relief.
feel like we should end the show
Sorry,
before
yeah,
you
we
guys have
should.
a huge argument. This would be the fall of Elliott Brood, really. I don't want any part in this. All right, listen, Stephen, Mark, Casey, thank you so much for being on the show, and best of luck with everything.
Thanks, Vish.
Thanks, Fish.
Thanks.
Never
There you go, a totally unreleased, brand new. Can something be unreleased and still brand new? You know what I mean. It's not out yet, but it's new. It's fresh. New song, unreleased song by Elliott BROOD. That was The Fall. And you can't really tell because I guess I didn't frame it properly, but we actually recorded this interview back in February. And one of the reasons why I went down to Hamilton in February to talk to Elliott BROOD when they didn't have a record out or were actually working on stuff was because I was on a magazine assignment for Exclaim to go visit their HQ and find out about their studio and how they work and how it was different than their time in Toronto. And my friend and essentially associate, he's basically the associate producer of the show, I like to call him. He's a photographer and a videographer. His name's Colin Medley. He was in the room snapping photos of us for the magazine shoot. So it was me and Elliott BROOD and Colin, and we're working on this kind of magazine thing, and we recorded it for this show. And I hope you enjoyed it. I had a great time. I learned a lot of things about the band that I didn't know, and it's very interesting. It was interesting to hear their take on Hamilton and how different that's been, the experience has been compared to when they lived in Toronto and they can't find a space to really play. And anyway, I enjoyed it, and they gave us a song, The Fall, brand new song. So that is now, subsequent to that thing we did, they actually know that it's going to be on a new record called Ghost Gardens, and that's going to be out later this year. But this is an advance preview of what that record is going to be like. So thank you, Elliott BROOD and Paperbag Records and the Bellevue Show and whoever else made this possible, because I really appreciate it. It was really fun. So thanks, Elliott BROOD and everybody else. This is the 312th episode, I think, of Creative Control. I believe that is correct. 312th episode of the show. And this show is everywhere now. It is on every conceivable podcast platform. iTunes, Audio Boom, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn. It's basically everywhere. So check it out there. Rate it. Review it. Please subscribe to it. If you download the show, even if you're going to get rid of it later, but if you download it, it actually... it helps with all the charts and all those things. It makes it seem like the show is very important. So please do those things. Spread the word about the show. You can learn more about the show at vishkhanna.com. As I say, 312 episodes. You have some catching up to do if you've not heard of the show, and that's fine. There's lots of time. vishkhanna.com for more information. Also, patreon.com/creativecontrol. You can go there to make a flexible monthly donation. Keep the podcast going. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I have a promotion going on throughout the month of April 2017 where if you pledge $10, you get a t-shirt. I send you a t-shirt. It's just that simple. Also, like the show on Facebook. Follow it on Twitter at Vish Creative. I'm on Twitter at Vishkhanna. And a version of the show airs every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time at CFRU.ca around the world. You can stream it there. Or if you're in the area, turn on your radio. CFRU 93.3 FM in Guelph and the area. We have a good signal, so we'll reach you if you're nearby. This episode would not be possible without our sponsors, the finest pizzeria in Guelph, Pizza Trocadero. Call them for pickup or delivery at 519-829-2444 or check them out at trocaderoguelph.ca. Also, The Bookshelf, an independently owned bookstore, bar, music venue, movie theater, and more, located at 41 Quebec Street in Guelph. Learn more about them at bookshelf.ca. And the amazing Planet Bean Coffee. They make freshly roasted, fair trade, certified organic coffee, and they distribute their coffee beans throughout Ontario and I think even beyond. Visit planetbeancoffee.com for more info. There are many episodes coming of this show. It's not stopping. Many interviews have been scheduled. Many things are in the can. Not the bathroom. I mean, I have episodes ready, saved. So stay tuned for those. Again, follow the show and all the podcast things and like it and all those things. It all helps. All right, that's it for me. Thank you very much for listening. I will talk to you soon. Goodbye for now.